Aloha kako. My name is Kassandra Conner, and today I will be talking about the germination rates that I found for seeds soaked in compost tea versus seeds soaked in water. Germination techniques are an important issue that researchers are constantly exploring in order to better understand the best methods to raise seeds, which is why I chose this project. My project focused on determining whether or not compost tea was more efficient at helping seeds germinate than water when soaking them. My results so far have not shown a difference, but I will get into that. The method that I used was first creating my compost tea by soaking compost in water for 24 hours and then straining the large particles from the mixture. I did not dilute my compost tea, so it was 100% compost tea used for soaking. Next, 20 seeds from 3 different varieties of vegetables. And the vegetables that I chose for this experiment were beans, asparagus, and broccoli. And this was 60 seeds in total were chosen. And then from those 3 groups, they were split in half. So 10 from each group went into the compost tea and the other 10 went into the water. Each set of seeds were labeled and soaked for 12 hours in their respective solution. And then after soaking, these seeds were labeled and sewn into flats and monitored for germination growth. My germination timeline, so my 12-hour seed soak began in February. And 1 week later, I saw that my beans had grown significantly. I actually had no change from the first week to the last week in my experiment. So I had 9 beans from the compost tea solution and all 10 beans from the water solution. There was no germination from broccoli or asparagus during this time. The following week, my beans were consistent. I had 4 asparagus from the compost tea solution and 3 asparagus from the water solution, and 5 broccoli from the compost tea solution and 10 broccoli from the water solution. The third week after this, no change in beans and no change in broccoli. But for my asparagus, it went up from 4 to 7 for the compost tea solution and 3 to 6 for the water solution. And my last week of monitoring, the beans were consistent. Asparagus, I had 9 for both of the compost tea solution and 9 for the water solution. And for my broccoli, I was consistent with 5 for the compost tea, and actually one of my seedlings had died from the water solution, so it went down to 9. The week after that, all of the seedlings were transferred over into pots. So this is a bar graph of my germination results. As you can see, asparagus was the same. Broccoli, there was a lower germination result from the compost tea than the water solution. And green beans, there was also a small difference with the compost tea seeds having less germination than the water solution. But overall, not a huge difference. Observations and considerations. The water soak had a slightly higher germination rate than that of the compost tea soak. There ended up being no statistical differences in height between the 2 groups. Toxicity levels of such high concentration may have led to poor germination results in my compost tea groups. I was reading more articles after I had begun this study and throughout, and most studies use a low concentration of compost tea, like a 2% is actually very good. So I think that that is what caused this particular study to show the results that it does. And here are my references. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you learned something new.